What it is, nobody here yet. It's just me, I think, because I just set up the show. Nobody had a chance. We're early. The news expires rapidly these days. It seems like if I had done a show 15 minutes before the show yesterday, I would have had a different title. In fact, I did. And then the ceasefire happened, shocking the world, or shocking me. But actually, a lot of people predicted it would happen. A lot of the MAGA supporters and the nothing ever happens bros were proven correct yesterday, at least temporarily. At least temporarily, because the dynamic has shifted quite a bit. And I'm definitely skeptical about whether there is actually going to ever be a ceasefire. As of right now, there is no ceasefire. As of right now, the strait is closed. So that's the breaking news. As of right now, you could probably short stocks and buy oil and buy long oil and probably make some money today, probably before the end of the day. I'm guessing. Stocks are way up, just like they were yesterday, but they're not as high as they were when the market opened this morning. I predicted a different outcome, but actually it might be the same outcome because as of right now, like I said, I'm just giving you guys the news update for people who are interested in the war coverage. The strait's closed. The ceasefire's broken. Okay, Israel did it. Not me, says Nathan came live to jawbone the market down. Yeah, I know, exactly. I have to. Nobody else is reporting on the news. I need stocks to go down before the end of the month. I still have time. They're really not reacting to the news. It's kind of insane, actually. A major oil refinery was hit inside of Iran today. Apparently, Iran blamed the United States and Israel, but actually the United States and Israel denied it was them. And the original report was that, I can't remember which country, one of the Arab countries, maybe UAE, their Air Force, one of the reports I saw this morning was that one of the Arab countries, their Air Force, hit an oil refinery in Iran. So that it definitely happened. Then Iran said they blamed U.S. Israel. U.S. Israel has officially denied they were involved. So it sounds like it was one of the Gulf states who have some kind of limited air force. So that happened after the ceasefire. Then, in what should have jolted things but didn't, Iran hit the Saudi Arabia east-west pipeline, which they had been refraining from doing, which carries 7 million barrels of oil per day to the Red Sea, the side that Yemen can control if they feel like it, the side that hasn't been activated yet. So they hit a pumping station on the east-west pipeline. Just a reminder, the oil restriction isn't as bad as it could be for a few reasons. One, Iran is still selling oil. And two, the oil, a significant amount of the oil that normally ships through the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf is now being pumped east to west to the Red Sea, where it's being picked up, and the strait there, the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, is still open because the Houthis haven't been activated yet, but they could be at any time. So far, Iran just hasn't done that. So if that pipeline is disabled, then that's a huge amount of oil going completely offline. So that makes the oil crisis even worse. Oil has rebounded. Oh, I'm still connected to my phone. Okay, hopefully I'll be all right. I'm still connected to my phone. for internet because the internet here sucks at my house. It goes out all the time. But my phone's pretty good. I have unlimited data. I'm signed up with Visible. Bring your own phone. If you can get cheaper cell phone coverage, just by the way, because I look to economize in every way possible. You can get much cheaper cell phone coverage if you don't go with the free phone scam, which I guess it kind of is, because most wireless plans are like $80 a month or something, and you can actually get a pretty good phone service for like $40 a month. That's all. And it includes my Apple Watch, unlimited data, unlimited tethering. It's just a little bit, what do you call it? Throttled, the tethering. But it seems to be working fine for running this show. Speaking of that, Trump phones. Let's see. What else? Sudanese. I think it was Israel that bombed the Chinese, what do they call it? Silk Road, the new Silk Road. So yeah, that's news. Thank you for bringing it up. I can't even cover everything. It's impossible because, like I said, by the time I'm ready to come on the show, like yesterday, Trump's threat in the morning, which would have been big news, or I would have normally covered his threat to destroy their civilization would die today, yesterday. Normally would have covered how that was outrageous. Then the ceasefire happened, so it kind of became irrelevant. But in any case, there is no ceasefire as of right now. I don't think I think there might not be a ceasefire ever, or at least I don't think the Strait of I don't think the Strait of Hormuz is going to open ever in the foreseeable future. Not during this so-called ceasefire, if it ever takes place. The ceasefire may never happen. The Strait of Hormuz is not going to open. Not open. They might, if Israel stops bombing Lebanon, they might open it a little more than they were, but they still control it. Trump has admitted that. They're charging fees. Apparently, they're charging fees in Bitcoin, believe it or not. Apparently, they're charging fees in Bitcoin. They said, I heard cryptocurrency, then I heard specifically Bitcoin, which is weird. I would think they wouldn't use Bitcoin. I would think they would just use like US dollar coin because it's stable, but apparently they're charging fees in cryptocurrency. And in any case, they've officially announced that the strait is totally closed. They're not letting any oil tankers through at all. Like I said, the markets haven't moved much. I mean, oil is up from where it was, but not much. It was down to 92. Now it's around 95. Considering the news, I would have thought oil would be right back up, but still, it's still near $100. I'd be surprised if people are saying gas prices are down, but that would surprise me because gas prices were basically the same when oil was $100, which is basically what it is now, than when oil got up to $115, which it was yesterday. It might have changed 10 cents or something. So I'd be surprised if gas prices change much in a hurry, because getting oil today is still super expensive, way more than getting oil in May, which is what the price says. The price is for oil delivered in May. If you want oil delivered today, you're going to pay a lot more than the price to get it delivered in May. And if things don't change, then the price for May delivery is going to go up significantly before it rolls over to June. And shorts will get wrecked. Stocks are Dow Jones is up 1,234 points, 2.65%. NASDAQ, it's still performing well. It was down a little bit. It's back up to over 3.12%. Carolyn Levitt is about to do a press conference, so I thought I'd cover that. I could play Lego videos. The Jews are unhappy, very unhappy. And when I say the Jews, you know who I'm talking about. Not all of them, but hopefully you know what I'm saying. They're not happy at all. And they're really not going to be happy if they can't kill innocent civilians in Lebanon like they did this morning. They're really not going to be happy. So like Mark, when I say the Jews, I mean like Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, all the people that loved Lindsey Graham is like an honorary. Lindsey Graham isn't happy with the deal. Mark Levin is very unhappy with the deal. Laura Loomer is exceptionally unhappy with what's going on because many of them were excited when Trump said he would that their civilization would die, because that's what they wanted to happen. That's what Laura Loomer was pushing for. That's probably what Mark Levin wanted too. That's what they wanted to happen. So the fact that that didn't happen is very, very disappointing for Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, and many Jews in Israel who wonder what the hell the whole stupid thing was all about. Like, why have they been in bunkers? I saw one of them say, I didn't stay in a bunker for 40 days and 40 nights to open the Strait of Hormuz. That's what one of them said. No, that's right. They didn't get involved in this war to, they didn't get involved in this war to open the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before it started and isn't open now. And if it opens, it's not going to be open, not like it was before the war started, for the indefinite foreseeable future. How Lucky says, is now the time to buy the dip in oil? Yeah, I would. Certainly, I would, before it skyrockets again. I don't think the Strait is opening. It didn't open, and I don't think it's opening. I don't know if peace talks are going to happen. So I'll give you guys the updates, okay? So you have the news. These are the updates. After the so-called ceasefire, there were a number of missile attacks from Iran on neighboring countries and on Israel. The Trump said, "Oh, that's just because they already had orders and they're carrying orders on donkeys now because they don't use their phones, because if they use their phones, they'll get blown up and stuff." Or like Trump said, like children are carrying messages. That's what Trump said they're doing to communicate, is children are carrying messages from one to the other. I say donkeys, or you could say camels, but I don't even know if they do camels in Iran. A lot of misconceptions about Iran, a lot of miscalculations about Iran and the Iranian people. So there were some back and forth bombings. Then this morning, oil refinery hit in Iran, apparently by a Gulf nation. Iran seems to have retaliated against that attack by hitting the Saudi Arabia East-West pipeline, which is a super, like I said, super important to where actually the situation with oil, if that is hit in a bad way, is worse today than it was yesterday by a long shot if we lose another 7 million barrels a day. Saudi Arabia said the damage isn't that bad so far. So Saudi Arabia apparently said the damage isn't that bad. So apparently it still works. But if they're able to shut down that pipeline, that would be even worse for the price of oil. Israel never agreed, says, yes, they never agreed and they're upset. Oh, there's okay, so that happened. And then Israel mounted their largest attack to date on Beirut and seemed to have just blown up buildings. Okay. Israel style. So I can show you like video of that. Here's video of blowing stuff up in Beirut. Dozens dead supposedly so far, but probably going to be a lot more. Their largest strike yet. Okay, then Iran said if there's no ceasefire in Lebanon, there's no ceasefire at all. And as long as there's no ceasefire in Lebanon, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. So there's no ceasefire. Currently, the strait is closed. Okay, that's the current situation, regardless of what anybody tells you. Currently, there's no ceasefire. Currently, the strait is closed. Iran also said they might open up the strait Thursday or Friday, and Thursday is already tomorrow, if a ceasefire agreement is made. So that was a statement apparently from somebody from Iran. They will open up the strait maybe tomorrow or Friday if a ceasefire is made. Regarding the 10-point plan, oh man, there's so much stuff. Regarding the 10-point plan, CNN published, and now every single news outlet published, the 10-point plan published by Iran officially. CNN last night published the official statement from the Iranian Security Council, which declared victory and laid out all of the things the United States supposedly conceded to, which include control of the Strait of Hormuz, nuclear enrichment allowed, no mention of ballistic missile anything, and a number of other points we would never agree to, which is why I thought there would never be a ceasefire. Because how could we agree to these things? We've already agreed to let them charge tolls. Trump has made that clear. So in terms of anyone, it's extremely frustrating seeing all the retards on Twitter, all the MAGA dopes on Twitter who are like, oh, this is a giant win. Why is anybody calling it a taco? It is the definition of defeat, strategic defeat, if things stay the way they are, which is that we had a deal on the table before the conflict started. I shouldn't even call it, it wasn't even, we bombed them before we started bombing them, killing all their leaders and stuff. Iran had offered a deal to dilute the 60% enriched uranium, never pursue a nuclear weapon, continue their own enrichment at a low level for civilian use only. They had already agreed to all of those terms. Then we bombed them. The strait was open with no fees, fully open, maritime rules. Everybody could go through. Nobody was controlling it. No fees. Nobody telling any tankers they had to turn around or pay in Bitcoin or any of that. That was all true before the conflict started. If the conflict ends, even in the most optimistic way, if the conflict ends in the most optimistic way, where Iran actually turns over the 60% enriched uranium, but doesn't cease enrichment, doesn't cease their nuclear, doesn't do anything about their ballistic. I mean, that's optimistic to me. And Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, then it's a total defeat because we're worse off in the most optimistic scenario based on what we've already agreed to, we're worse off. That doesn't even include the 13 soldiers dead, the hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment lost, the embarrassment, the loss of influence in the world, all of our allies turning against us, billions and billions and billions of dollars spent, whatever it was. Let's say it was $1 billion per day, which I think is maybe light. So let's say $40 billion to achieve negative results in the most optimistic scenario. Now, Iran claims we're going to have to agree to their 10-point proposal, which Trump said was a basis for negotiations. Trump said himself that the 10-point plan will be the basis for negotiations. And the 10 points are all points we couldn't possibly do. Reparations, continued nuclear enrichment, no mention of ballistic missiles. Let me see. I'm sure I have it. Here, reported by the Wall Street Journal. Okay. Trump called the CNN report fake news and said like they might have committed a crime reporting official government sources. So then everybody reported the same thing, which are that these are the 10 points that Trump said in his tweet were the basis for negotiations. U.S. must fundamentally commit to guaranteeing non-aggression. And I believe that has to include Israel too, but it just says the U.S. guaranteeing with international agreements and acts passed by Congress, we can never attack them again, which is a non-starter because we already say we're planning to attack them again if we find them enriching or anything else. Continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. That's the second point. Number 3 is acceptance that Iran can enrich uranium for its nuclear program. Removal of all primary sanctions on Iran. Removal of all secondary sanctions against foreign entities that do business with Iranian institutions. End of all United Security Council resolutions targeting Iran. End of all International Atomic Energy Agency resolutions on Iran's nuclear program. Compensation payment to Iran for war damage. Withdrawal of all of U.S. combat forces from the region. In other words, close all the bases. Ceasefire on all fronts, including Israel's conflict with Hezbollah in London. Okay, so those are the official 10 points. They haven't changed. They've been known for a while. And Trump now claims that those 10 points are different than what he meant. That's what Trump is claiming now. This is why I think, well, you guys want to do any polls before I give my opinion? Because I don't want my opinion to influence the polls. Do you guys think there's actually going to be a meeting in Islamabad on Thursday or Friday? That's the plan. Is there going to be a meeting? So the plan, I'll give you the news. The plan is that there's going to be a meeting Thursday or Friday in Islamabad, Pakistan, with J.D. Vance was the original plan. The administration is now saying that J.D. Vance probably can't go because of security concerns. Will Iran agree to meet with Witkoff and Kushner? Because that's the suggestion, is we're going to send Witkoff and Kushner, who they hate and believe are simply assets of Israel. I see people saying no meeting. I am skeptical that there will be a meeting. So I see people already voting in the poll. I'm skeptical it's going to happen at all. But if it does, I have no idea what's going to happen. Okay, let me get to things because the press conference is about to start, and I wanted to tune into that, so I thought we could watch together. Very quickly. Okay. Iran says, oh, I shouldn't have deleted that because I could use it later. The Lavon oil refinery is what was hit in Iran, by the way. And then the Saudi, the IDF, Israel says that their attacks on Hezbollah are not part of the ceasefire. Trump says, he said to PBS that Israel-Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. Trump says they're not part of the ceasefire. They're a separate skirmish. However, I guess this is the prime minister in the announcement of the ceasefire by the prime minister of Pakistan. I think it's the prime minister, Shehbaz Sharif. It very clearly says the United States of America, along with their allies, have agreed to an immediate ceasefire everywhere, including Lebanon and elsewhere, effective immediately. So Israel says the ceasefire doesn't apply to Lebanon. Trump says the ceasefire doesn't apply to Lebanon. Iran says Israel violated the ceasefire by attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon. Therefore, the strait is closed. Therefore, there's no ceasefire. So that's where we're at right now. Supposedly, Carolyn Levitt is going to clear that up during the press briefing, which I have waiting for you right here. So just so you know, the press briefing is ready to go. I'm listening on low volume so I can hear when it starts. Okay, so let's go through some of the tweets. Mark Levin says, who's the point man on the negotiations who cut out our ally who has fought by our side, unlike most NATO countries? Who's the point? So he's trying to figure out who made the negotiations. Laura Loomer is claiming it wasn't Trump who made the deal. Wall Street Journal says Israel wasn't part of the negotiations, wasn't happy about it. Reports from Israeli media and Israeli tweeters is that they're not happy about it. Here it is. White House official says the 10-point peace plan that Iran publicly released on Wednesday differs from the plan that Trump said was a workable basis on which to negotiate. That's what the White House is saying about the actual 10-point plan, which literally hasn't changed. It wasn't new. They've been saying it all along. I've been reporting on it like for weeks what their demands were, which is why I said there would never be a ceasefire, because we would never agree to their demands. Trump told Israel, it's reported that we will demand no nuclear enrichment and ballistic missiles, and that they do something about their ballistic missiles program. Which Iran, I believe, is very unlikely to do based on their demands, based on the fact that they just celebrated victory. I can show you a Lego video. Bob, I hope so. Looks like your options are going to print after all. We'll see. I'm glad to see I'm only down like 30. My Robinhood portfolio is only down 35% today. It was down 40 when I woke up. I thought it would be down 50. Some of my options are down like 70% today. I would buy more, to be honest, but I'm already too deep, basically. So I figure I'm just going to keep them instead of buying more. Let's check on the markets. Oil is still around $95, down 18%, down $18, 16% right now. Crude oil, Brent is down 13.5%. They're both trading around $95, which is still high. And it might be as low as they ever get. It might be as low as they ever get, assuming the Strait stays closed and people realize that. And this might be the highest stocks ever get. I'll check in on stocks. Dow's still up 1,250 points. NASDAQ is up 750 points, 3.10%. SP 500 is up 2.5%, 167 points. So markets are still, they're not reacting negatively really so far to this news. Not really at all. I show you. So there's the result of all these moves. And actually, I don't even think I would have been able to close my options yesterday. It would have been a good move to obviously close my options yesterday before closing and buy them back today, obviously. But I thought there wouldn't possibly, I didn't think Iran would agree to open the Strait of Hormuz. I was shocked. But now that the Strait of Hormuz is still closed, I'm not that surprised. Here's a 15-minute chart. So near the highs of the day, still very little negative reaction to what has really been an onslaught of negative news since the news broke, since considering there is no ceasefire and the Strait is still closed. First Last says Nathan is all right, but I would never take financial advice from him. That's good. I can't give financial advice, right? But it would have been, you would have done much better if you'd started buying cryptocurrency in 2017 when I told you to, or started buying silver in 2015 when I started talking about the need to buy silver. So you missed out a little bit because I did very well with those items, but this kind of activity that I'm doing now is more gambling, to be honest. So I advise people to be cautious mostly and have cash mostly at this time. If I was to advise, I would say just have cash. Just don't jump all in on stocks right now. That's all. Protect yourself. And if you have a big portfolio, buy some insurance, you know. I'm gambling, basically. Nancy Pelosi style. All right, press briefing still hasn't happened. Let's see if I can show you guys more stuff. Thanks, Quantum Epic, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate, says greatly appreciate the early stream, Nathan. Thank you very much. Yeah, First Last, you got it at 15 bucks. That's good. Yeah, I was buying tubes of it. 2020, that's not bad. I was buying tubes of it before then. I was like, but it was around the same price for a long time. I think I was buying it for like 14 or something. I remember buying tubes. I'm hoping to buy a tube of gold after this crash, but things have to work out first. And by work out, I mean crash. But let's see what Carolyn Levitt has to say. It's going to be a very interesting press conference. She's late. She's 15 minutes late. Cyril says energy lockdowns, rationing on the way. Yes. Unless things change drastically. The Strait of Hormuz is still not open. 13, you bought gold in 2005. Good for you. I believe it was very cheap in 2005. I only recently started buying gold. I had been buying silver. And I sold all my silver when I went insane last year. This time last year, Yeah, this time last year, I was not doing well. This time last year is around the time I had to sell all my stuff. April 8th, yeah, I was completely insane. Maxed out my credit card. Then I had to sell a bunch of stuff to pay that off. Move into a room somewhere. Wanted to kill myself every day. So it's been a remarkable recovery from that situation for people who have been here the whole time. Now we talk about gambling. Official news is reporting that it wasn't Iran. In case anybody didn't know, it was us that requested the ceasefire, not Iran. In case everybody didn't know. Hairway to Steven says diesel is $8.19 in Silicon Valley. Yeah, I'll check my local gas station to see if gas prices actually came down today. They did go down 10 cents. It went up 20 cents, then down 10 cents, but it's still $5.59 for regular gasoline with cash at my local station. And I think it's 10 cents more if you pay credit. And diesel is probably very close to $7. And that's a cheap gas station. All right. So press conference should be starting soon. Like I said, not really news to me, but obviously it was the White House pushing for a ceasefire, not Iran, like we've been saying. Here's what an advisor close to the Iranian government is saying it is the plan for Hormuz if it's open. If it's totally open, this is what they're saying the plan is during the 2-week ceasefire, only about 10 to 15 ships will be permitted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz with Iran's approval in coordination with the IRGC Navy and after payment of tolls. And the United States is committed to releasing all of Iran's frozen assets. The Strait of Hormuz will by no means be open in its previous form, even after a final agreement. In addition, the United States is committed to refraining from any troop movements during this period. During this time, negotiations will be held based on Iran's 10-point plan, details of which are referenced in the statement of the Supreme National Security Council. In the event of no agreement, the war will resume. Yes, frozen assets. So much irony here. We withdrew from Obama's terrible deal, and Obama funded the mullahs by giving them whatever it was, $2 billion in cash or whatever it was. Well, in comparison to Obama's terrible deal, Trump's great deal, if Iran agrees to it, is that Iran might agree to the same deal, which I don't think they care if they make a nuclear weapon or not, because they've shown that they can defend themselves without it. So I'm not convinced Iran, I am convinced that Iran doesn't need a nuclear weapon to be a deterrent from people attacking them. They've already shown that attacking them is a very bad idea because they can close the Strait of Hormuz. They've shown the ability to close the Strait of Hormuz and that nobody can do anything about it. And that no matter what the threats, they're going to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. And we must have realized that even if we followed through on the attacks, which were always a bluff, that they would still remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz, that they already have a deterrent as good as a nuclear weapon, which is that they can nuclear bomb the world economy anytime they want by just blowing up a few ships. I would prefer it in my crazy thinking. I like people having nuclear bombs. to be honest, if they're real. I know there's some skepticism there, and I've been very skeptical in the past. I'm okay with them, and actually I'd like it if they had a nuclear bomb to help keep Israel in check, because Israel is the threat to the world that we claim Iran is, in my eyes. Israel commits terrorism all over the world. Israel is the one constantly attacking their neighbors without provocation. Israel is the one that started the conflict with Iran both times. So therefore, Israel is responsible for the Strait of Hormuz being closed and us paying more for gas because they want to control the Middle East. Everything they accuse Iran of is projection. They're the fundamentalist, religious, suicidal maniacs. You know, they say it's religious zealots that are controlling Iran, but it's religious zealots that are controlling Israel, who believe that they have a God-given right to control the entire Middle East. So I don't care if they have a nuclear bomb. I think they should get one, but it's also, I wouldn't be mad at Iran for agreeing to a deal where they said they would never get a nuke, which they were willing to sign, which they've signed before with inspections and all that stuff. I think with the release of sanctions. So this guy is claiming that for the Strait of Hormuz to even open, that the United States has to release all of Iran's frozen assets. So far, we've increased with what Trump has given them in order for a ceasefire, which we requested. He's given them a lot more than Obama did. That's what I'm saying. If the idea is that the Obama deal was bad, the Trump deal is catastrophically bad, because we're going to lift all sanctions, return their money, which is all Obama did. He just gave them their own money. It sounds like we're going to have to do the same thing. Plus, their oil profits are up 100%. Plus, the tolls they're taking on the Strait of Hormuz over a year are apparently could be worth $200 billion. They'd be making more just on tolls in the Strait of Hormuz, which we're not doing anything about apparently, than they do selling oil. And they're selling oil now. They're currently selling oil sanction free. We've unsanctioned them so they can sell their oil for full price, where they had to charge a discount before. The price of oil has gone up well over 50%, even at the price it's at now. So they're making a lot more money selling oil, and they're making money that they never made before by charging a toll. We've authorized them charging a toll. Trump admitted they're charging a toll, which we had said previously was unacceptable, which is why I thought there would never be a ceasefire with the Strait open, at least. So I think I heard a 2-minute warning for Carolyn. So the press briefing's about to start. The press. I tuned in for I was up early. I tuned into the press briefing with Hegseth and Raising Cane, and they didn't really ask tough questions. The only question they asked, which was interesting, was, is the Strait of Hormuz open? Hegseth tried to shut that down, and then the General Kane said, well, I think so. He said, I think so, I think so, I think so, like 3 times. So now we're going to hear what the official story is. But Hegseth, of course, just said a bunch of baloney. We've barely degraded their weapons program. They're still firing missiles whenever they want. We've accomplished exactly 0 of our objectives, unless you change our objectives from what they were in the beginning to destroying their Navy and Air Force, which they obviously didn't need in the first place. They have, we lied about them having no anti-aircraft capabilities. They've obviously shown in the last week that they have anti-aircraft capabilities, which we were unaware of. And apparently we can't do anything about. Okay, she's here.
Before I discuss the ceasefire with Iran, I have a quick update from the First Lady of the United States. Yesterday marked the very first conviction under the Take It Down Act, landmark legislation that First Lady Melania Trump played an instrumental role in getting passed, that protects victims from non-consensual AI-generated sexually explicit images, cyber stalking, and threats of violence. This is a huge achievement for the First Lady, and I know the President is very proud of his wife's efforts in getting this critical legislation passed to protect America's youth. So we thank the First Lady for her efforts, and we hope that others will report on this historic conviction yesterday. With respect to the 2-week ceasefire announced by President Trump last night, this is a victory for the United States of America that the President and our incredible military made happen. From the very beginning of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump stated this would be a 4 to 6 week military operation to dismantle the military threat posed by the radical Islamic Iranian regime. Thanks to the unbelievable capabilities of America's war fighters, the United States has achieved and exceeded those core military objectives in just 38 days. The U.S. military destroyed Iran's defense industrial base, crushing the regime's ability to manufacture weapons that they and their proxies use to maim and kill Americans and terrorize the world. True. Iran's ability to build and stockpile ballistic missiles and long-range drones has also been set back by years compared to where it was 6 weeks ago prior to the launch of Operation Epic Fury. We destroyed the vast majority of Iran's ballistic missiles, launcher vehicles, and long-range attack drones through more than 450 strikes on ballistic missiles and approximately 800 strikes on Iran's drone launching units and storage facilities. In total, more than 13,000 targets across Iran were struck. Again, this is in the matter of just 38 days. Meanwhile, the Iranian Navy was completely annihilated. The United States destroyed more than 150 naval vessels in total, including 16 entire classes of Iranian warships. Despite once being the largest undersea force in the Middle East, Iran now has 0 submarine vessels. 97% of Iran's once massive inventory of more than 5,000 naval mines has also been targeted and destroyed. Iran's air forces are functionally and operationally irrelevant at this point, after the United States maintained total air dominance over their country for weeks on end. To underscore the significance of this, before Operation Epic Fury, the Iranian Air Force would fly between 30 to 100 flights per day. Today, that number is 0. Iran's ability to fund and support its terrorist proxies has been greatly reduced. At this point, Iran can no longer distribute weapons to its proxies in the region. And most importantly, Iran will not be able to acquire nuclear weapons.
Why?
Prior to the start of this successful operation, Iran was aggressively expanding its short-range ballistic missile arsenal. Through these weapons and its navy, Iran was attempting to build a military buildup around their country that would pose an imminent and existential threat to the United States military assets in the Middle East, our allies in the region, and ultimately the free world. Iran was pursuing this dangerous and aggressive strategy for one reason: to hold the entire world hostage to its terrorist ambitions. The Iranians aim to use their expanded military capabilities as a shield around their country.
They're doing that now.
Achieving their ultimate goal internally.
They already showed they
building
did
nuclear
that.
bombs. But their murderous and evil plans have been blown up, quite literally and figuratively, along with their military, their nuclear program, and most of their senior leadership, including the former Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Their command and control structures were also massively disrupted after being struck more than 2,000 times. Many of their remaining leaders are paralyzed in fear and no longer enjoy the freedom to move around their country freely and meet openly. Thanks to the unmatched excellence of our warriors at the direction of the Commander-in-Chief, the world has just witnessed a historically swift and successful military triumph. President Trump started Operation Epic Fury with strategic military objectives, and the United States has clearly achieved them. As we mark this progress, we also remember and honor the 13 American heroes who laid down their lives in this noble effort. I know President Trump and our grateful nation honors their ultimate sacrifice, and we will never forget them. May God bless their families. The valiant efforts of all of our incredible service members created maximum leverage for the President of the United States, allowing he and his leadership team to engage in tough negotiations over the past couple of weeks that have now created an opening for a diplomatic solution and long-term peace in the Middle East. The President's maximum pressure and the leverage created by the success of Operation Epic Fury led to the Iranian regime asking for and ultimately agreeing to a ceasefire proposal with the United States. Iran could no longer tolerate being bombed or taking the gamble of
that's a lie, right?
Following President Trump's 8 p.m. deadline last night. Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz, and as the president said, we have received a proposal from the Iranians that has been determined to be a workable basis on which to negotiate. I've seen a lot of inaccurate coverage today from the media about these negotiations and these plans already. So let me be clear and correct the record. The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. Many outlets in this room have falsely reported on that plan as being acceptable to the United States, and that is false. With the president's deadline fast approaching and the United States military completely decimating Iran with each passing hour, the regime acknowledged reality to the negotiating team. They put forward a more reasonable and entirely different and condensed plan to the president and his team. President Trump and the team determined the new modified plan was a workable basis on which to negotiate and to align it with our own 15-point proposal. The president's red lines, namely the end of Iranian enrichment in Iran, have not changed. And the idea that President Trump would ever accept an Iranian wish list as a deal is completely absurd. The president will only make a deal that serves in the best interests of the United States of America, and he as a negotiating team will focus on this effort over the next 2 weeks, so long as the Strait of Hormuz remains open with no limitations or delays. These extraordinarily sensitive and complex negotiations will take place behind closed doors over the course of the next 2 weeks. I would strongly advise the media against running with narratives that have no basis in fact. What Iran says publicly or feeds to all of you in the press is much different than what they communicate to the United States, the president, and his team privately. Never underestimate President Trump's ability to successfully advance America's interests and broker peace. President Trump has a proven track record of achieving good deals on behalf of the United States and the American people, and he will only accept one that puts America first. With that, I will take your questions today. I'm sure you have a lot of them. In our new media seat, we have Shane Harris with the AMAC Newsline. Shane, thank you for being here. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Caroline. 2 questions for you. First, following the president's announcement of the ceasefire, if this is indeed the end of hostilities in Iran, what is the president's message to the American people about what was achieved for our country through Operation Epic Fury?
Sure. I think I just laid out a significant portion of that in my opening remarks. 6 weeks ago, the president looked the American people in the eye directly, and he told them that he launched this operation to take out the imminent threat that was posed by Iran. And that threat has now been greatly destroyed. Their Navy, their missiles, their defense industrial base, and their desire and their plan to build a nuclear bomb inside their country is no longer going to be allowed, can no longer happen, thanks to the remarkable success of Operation Epic Fury over the course of the last 38 days. That has been absolutely achieved, and now we're moving into the next phase
anytime they want,
negotiating period,
hitting target.
To put some fine points on this and to hopefully broker an agreement that can
how do you call that a victory?
Yeah, and then second, what is the president's message to American seniors who have a much higher voter participation rate and they're likely to be a key swing vote in the midterm elections?
Well, the president loves our seniors across the country. And as you know, the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill.
No tax on Social Security.
Last year.
Tax for seniors.
Reduced taxes on Social Security for our seniors. In fact, thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, nearly 90% of seniors will no longer pay tax on their Social Security. That's a huge win for our seniors and also for our middle class and working families across the country with the no tax on tips provision and the no tax on overtime. Next week is tax week. You'll hear a lot from the president about how his policies have benefited the American people. And I'm proud to report that the president will be traveling next week to the great states of Nevada and Arizona to tout this.
Let's ask a real question from a real person.
Thank you for being here, Shane.
Just ask a real question. What are the 10 points then? That's what I would ask.
That Iran has now closed off the Strait of Hormuz today in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon.
Good question.
White House response to that. And you just listed many military successes. I understand that. But strategically, how is the administration arguing that Iran does not have more economic leverage than it did before the start of the war?
Sure. Well, with respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the president was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely.
So,
that is his expectation, and it has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
False? Oh, really?
They threatened that a whole civilization would die if a ceasefire deal wasn't reached. Understanding that Iranian leaders have previously said death to America.
Okay.
But why is it appropriate for the President of the United States to use that kind of language when talking about civilian targets? And was the president mocking Islam by signing off his True Social post over the weekend, praise be to Allah? Wouldn't that antagonize Muslim allies across the world?
Fair question.
Well, I understand the questions about
who are you
president's
with? You're
rhetoric,
an idiot.
But what the president cares most about is results. And in fact, his very tough rhetoric and his tough negotiating style is what has led to the result that you are all witnessing today. Iran publicly acknowledging last night that they have agreed or that they wanted this ceasefire with the United States because they no longer could tolerate being bombed by our very powerful and lethal military, and that they have committed to the reopening.
You mean when they
Strait of
declared
Hormuz, which
victory?
The president will hold them accountable for, and it's something the administration is closely monitoring in real time. Danny.
Should the world not take his word seriously?
The world should take his word very seriously in understanding that the president is always most interested in results. And it was the Iranians who backed down, not President Trump. He said that they would face very grave consequences, as you just laid out, by the 8 p.m. deadline. They did not agree to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
They declared victory.
What did they do last night? They agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
And what did they do this morning?
Would President Trump like to see Lebanon included in this peace deal? As you know, there have been increased Israeli strikes on Lebanon today with dozens of casualties there.
Give me a break.
Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a statement last night in support of the ceasefire, in support of the United States' efforts, and he's also assured the president they'll continue to be a helpful partner throughout the course of the next 2 weeks.
Is there any thought, though, that the president might like to see Lebanon included at a future date, given that it seems to be causing or potentially undermining the Iran ceasefire?
Again, this will continue to be discussed, I am sure, between the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu, the United States and Israel, and all of the parties involved. But at this point in time, they're not included in the ceasefire deal. Jeff.
Right. That's what she just said. They're not included. Okay. Good luck with that. Good luck. Good luck having conversations with them if they're not included.
Negotiating team led by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Mr. Kushner to Islamabad for talks this weekend. The first round of those talks will take place on Saturday morning local time, and we know we look forward to those in-person meetings.
Good luck. What role does the president see for the U.S. in monitoring or helping with the Strait of Hormuz going forward?
I think the president commented on that this morning. We're going to continue to monitor it very, very closely. We will be helpful in any way that we can, but we fully expect Iran to do this, and the president has made that quite clear as well. It's, again, as his statement said last night, the ceasefire is subject to the safe reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Again, this was just determined last night. We understand things take time, but that's the president's expectation, and he will hold everyone to it. Sure, in the green blazer.
Let's see.
Thank you.
Sure. And then in front of you. But Andrew, you can go ahead.
All right.
You're not wearing a green blazer. You can...
I am actually wearing a green blazer.
It's a little brown to me, but go ahead.
Fair enough. Regarding the president's rhetoric, when the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, George W. Bush said in a message to the Iraqi people that the military campaign was directed, quote, against the lawless men who rule your country and not against you. Yesterday, the president threatened to destroy Iran's civilization, the entire civilization, not the Iranian government, but the Iranian civilization, the Iranian people. The U.S. has been a moral leader for most of its history by fighting wars against other governments, not against civilizations. How can the president claim that America can ever have the moral high ground if he's threatening to destroy civilizations and not casting wars as fights against other governments?
Andrew, I think you should take a look at the actions of this president over the course of the past 6 weeks and the actions of our brave men and women in our United States military who have taken out essentially taken out the military of a rogue Islamic regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years, that has killed and maimed thousands of American soldiers over the course of the last 5 decades. The president absolutely has the moral high ground over the Iranian terrorist regime, and for you to even suggest otherwise is frankly insulting.
With all due respect, Caroline,
Go ahead.
with all due respect,
Go ahead.
there is
Just given what we've seen in Lebanon today and the increased attacks from Israel, I mean, is there any concern that Netanyahu is trying to kill the ceasefire?
The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu last night. And in that private conversation, Prime Minister Netanyahu relayed exactly what he said to the world publicly, that he supports the president and Israel remains a key ally and partner to the United States. They've been a tremendous partner over the course of the past 6 weeks, and we thank them for their heroic efforts as well. The president had that conversation last night, and that was relayed to the world publicly as well. Reagan, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I have a question for you on Iran and a question on the Dignity Act as
Sure.
well. On Iran, it's been reported that the ceasefire was struck after the involvement of 2 unlikely factors, J.D. Vance and China. What role did those parties play in striking a deal?
Well, Vice President Vance has played a very significant and a key role in this since the very beginning. Of course, he's the president's right-hand man. He is the vice president of the United States. He's been involved in all of these discussions. And as I just announced, he'll be leading this new phase of negotiations in Islamabad.
He
later
is
this
going.
week. With respect
Trump said he
to
wasn't
China,
going.
there were conversations that took place between top levels of our government and China's government.
That's
The
news.
president has great respect for President Xi and a great working relationship with him and with that country. And he looks forward to visiting China in just a few weeks.
And on the Dignity Act, it's getting a fresh push through Congress. It would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. What's the White House's position on this legislation, and would the president sign it if it made it to his desk?
Honestly, Reagan, I haven't spoken to the president about the legislation, but I will have that conversation and we'll get you our formal position on it as soon as we can. You're welcome. Go ahead.
The president suggested in an interview this morning that he would support a joint U.S.-Iranian venture to charge tolls for ships going through the Strait.
Right. That's what he
Does
said.
the president believe that the U.S. should earn revenue from the Strait of Hormuz going forward?
It's an idea the president has floated, as you know, and it's something that will continue to be.
He says we're going to share the tolls with Iran. That's what he said.
Of the president is the reopening of the strait without any limitations, whether in the form of tolls or otherwise.
Really? Oh, really? That's what you agreed
Iran
to?
given the
Okay, let's
administration any
see.
indication that it would simply turn over the enriched uranium, or is this an expectation that the president has that he would have to send in ground troops in order to do that?
This is on the top of the priority list for the president and his negotiating team as they head into this next round of discussions. And as I said in my opener, that is a red line that the president is not going to back away from. And he's committed to ensuring that takes place. We hope it will be through diplomacy.
Have they given any indication
have.
that they would turn it over?
They have.
They are.
Yes. Trevor.
The latest news out of Iran is that the air defenses have been activated in several cities, including Isfahan, and that explosions have been heard in Isfahan. Who is bombing Iran right now?
Were those reports just as of a few minutes ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously I'll have to go back and check with the national security team. I'm standing out here with all of you, but I will do that and we will get you an answer, okay?
And just on the civilization question that we've been talking about.
And I would just add to that point, again, I haven't seen these reports. I'm not verifying them. Not that I don't trust you, Trevor, but I want to go back and check with the experts here at the White House. I would just say, and I would echo what the vice president said this morning, this is a fragile truce. Ceasefires are fragile by nature. We've seen this with respect to the 12-day war with Iran and Israel last year. It takes time sometimes for these ceasefires to be fully effectuated. And one of the results of Operation Epic Fury was we completely dismantled Iran's command and control center, which
Really?
makes it difficult for
How
them
come
to
they
pass
can still
messages
launch
up and down the chain.
missiles
And
at
so
whatever they
we
want?
understand that. I would
Just
caution
curious.
a little bit of patience, but of course we want to see the ceasefire effectuated and abided by all parties as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And the American presidential administrations, going back to Ronald Reagan, have said this formulation about nuclear war, that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Is that still the view of this administration, given the president's comments about civilization?
I have no change in our view on that policy. Katie.
Thanks, Carolyn. I'm just, given the gravity of what he said yesterday, what was your understanding of what he meant when he said, this civilization is going to be eliminated?
I think it was a very, very strong threat from the President of the United States
Yeah.
that led the Iranian regime to cave to their knees and ask for a ceasefire and agree to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So it was a very strong threat that led to results. And as the Secretary of War stated at the Pentagon this morning, it was not an empty threat by any means.
It was
the
a bluff.
Pentagon had a target list that they were ready to hit go on at 8 p.m. last night if the Iranian regime had not agreed to open the strait, which they did. And I think that's something we should all be grateful for.
The United States is a moral leader in the world, given that
I was asked this exact same question by your colleague Andrew in the back. And I think, again, the insinuation by anyone in this room that Iran somehow has the moral high ground over the United States of America is insulting, considering the atrocities that they have committed against our people and our military over the past 5 decades. John, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions for you. One has to do with a statement, a joint statement put out this morning by some of America's European allies, our NATO allies. And in that joint statement, they said regarding the Strait of Hormuz, our governments will contribute to ensuring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. What's the administration's reaction to that joint statement? Does that smooth things over when the president meets with NATO Secretary General a little bit later this afternoon?
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed. And I would add, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks when it's the American people who have been funding their defense. As you know, President Trump will be meeting with Secretary Ruta in a couple of hours here at the White House, and I know he looks forward to having a very frank and candid conversation with him.
And then secondly, in regards to this conflict, 38 days, as you pointed out, President Trump has said that there's been regime change. Has that regime change led to more freedoms for the Iranian people?
I think that's a
Trick
question
question.
that's being asked a little bit too early, John, and we hope that is the case, but it's something that has yet to be seen.
Hope is not a strategy.
Eamon.
Caroline, on this question of tolling by the Iranians in the Strait of Hormuz, I've heard you talk about a number of red lines that the president has in this negotiation, but I haven't heard you say that Iranian tolling in the Strait of Hormuz is a red line. Would it be acceptable to the United States at the end of all this if the Iranians are able to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz?
I think the president was very clear and simplistic in his language last night in his Truth Social post, where he said that this ceasefire is subject to the free, safe, and immediate reopening of the
That's
Strait
not going to
of Hormuz.
happen.
That's very
So
plain
there's no
language, and it
ceasefire.
should be taken at face value.
There's no ceasefire.
Carrie, go ahead. Without limitation. including
Okay,
tolls.
there's no ceasefire.
Carrie.
It said in the fucking thing they're going to control it. In the official statement.
It's not something that we've opposed for a number of years now.
Like, what are
Again, that's not something we've
Who are
said
we
that
kidding?
we've definitively accepted. The joint venture is something that was proposed by the president, but he was very clear in his statement last night. He wants to see the strait reopened immediately without limitation, and that's something we're going to hold them to. Yes, in the blue.
Give me a break.
On family and friends in Iran. I myself
Nonsense.
am Iranian, and I've been talking to them through the blackout. One of my family members yesterday said goodbye to me. So what message should we be sending Iranians when they message me saying, what should they be doing right now? How should they stay safe? Because they really don't know what to do.
I think the president's main priority, in my main priority as his spokeswoman is to make sure that clear messages are sent to the American people, of course, which is my job today. With respect to the Iranian people, the president, has taken out the imminent threat that was posed by their military to the United States, to our allies in the region, to our forces in the region. And of course, as the president has long said, he hopes that Iran will be a country of peace, of prosperity, and we're moving into this next round of negotiations.
There's literally no
come to an
ceasefire.
agreement
There never was.
with this new regime that will create long-term stability in the Middle East.
He has said that they should stay inside of their homes and also take back their country. So there's a contradiction there. So how do you address that?
Again, we're moving into this next round of negotiations with the remnants of the regime and those that we are speaking with now to hopefully reach a place of peace long term for the region, and that includes the Iranian people as well. In the blue, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. The White House posted the statement from the Iranian government that passage in the Strait will be coordinated with Iran's armed forces. As of today, who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
Again, these statements were put out 12 hours ago. We expect that the Strait will be opened immediately. As I've said earlier, we have seen an uptick in traffic in the Strait, and it's something that we are monitoring minute by minute, hour by hour as the days go on.
Who controls the Strait
Two
right
questions. One on the deportations of Iranian officials, and then on the negotiations. Are there still security concerns about Vice President Vance being part of these peace talks, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner? And then two, given the ongoing deportation of General Soleimani's niece, does the Trump administration plan to deport more relatives or people in the families of Iranian officials that are in the U.S.?
Certainly, anyone who is here fraudulently. I understand one of the individuals who their visa was revoked by Secretary Rubio and they were deported by ICE. They had a fraudulent asylum claim. That's against the laws of the United States. So anyone who is here illegally or fraudulently is subject to our nation's immigration laws and will be removed from our country. And I know this continues to be a top priority for the State Department, working in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security. With respect to the safety of the Vice President, we fully trust the United States Secret Service to do their job, to keep the Vice President and the President's negotiating team safe. They do a tremendous job, and we fully trust them to do that.
Caroline.
In the back, go ahead.
The President has said Cuba is next. What's the message to the American people regarding Cuba, and what can Cubans expect in relation to the statement?
Well, look, I think when President Trump said that, and he later clarified after making that statement, that he meant the Cuban regime is bound to fall. The country is very weak. They're in a very weak position economically, obviously, financially. The Cuban people are fed up with their government, as they should be. And these talks and discussions continue to happen at the highest level of our government. I don't have any updates or announcements for you with respect to Cuba policy today. Good to see you.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary Hegseth said this morning that U.S. troops would be sticking around. Can you expound upon that, what we should expect from U.S. troops in theater for the next 2 weeks and beyond?
I would defer you to the Pentagon for any specifics on assets that have been in place in the Middle East, but take the Secretary at his word, and also the President has reiterated this as well in his own words, that we're not going to move anything immediately. Again, this is a 2-week ceasefire where we hope at the end, and we expect at the end, we'll have a good agreement between the United States and Iran. But in the meantime, we're going to ensure that our military is always at the ready of the Commander-in-Chief. I'll take a couple more in the back. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
On NATO, I'll take your question. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Caroline. On NATO, can you tell me, is the United States still considering withdrawing from NATO? Is that still a possibility?
It's something the President has discussed, and
We
I think
can't
it's something
withdraw
the
from
President will be
NATO.
discussing in
You
a
need
couple of
like
hours with
66
Secretary General
senators.
Rutta,
It's
and
impossible.
perhaps you'll hear directly from the
It's
President
stupid to
following
even
that
talk
meeting
about
later
it.
this afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
I have no idea. I mean, it was just, it's just, Israel is bombing Iran right now. So that person who asked, Israel is bombing Iran right now. Iran is about to declare the ceasefire null and void based on all the statements we're making, we and Israel are making. Netanyahu just was live saying they've got their finger on the trigger and they're ready to attack Iran at any time, that they weren't consulted as part of the deal. So then she said the 10-point plan is fake. There's not going to be a meeting. The strait's not opening. The war is still on. That's my take. I might be wrong, but the strait's not. That'd be my opinion as of where things stand right now. As long as we keep saying Lebanon's not part of the agreement, and it clearly was, then there's no deal. There's literally no deal. And anyway, in any case, she just said, like, what are they trying to say? It's being widely reported that we agreed to let them do tolls. Trump basically admitted it when he said maybe we'll split it with them, but tolls are good. That's what Trump said this morning to somebody. He was like, oh yeah, we might split it with them. Like, as if. It's like the regime of wishful thinking. That's who's in control. It's like all wishful thinking. Oh, okay. Let's just say stuff. Let's just say things and hope that they're true. They agreed to give their nuclear. They agreed to turn over the material. That's not true. They might agree to it if we agree to all their demands. They might agree to that. They were willing to before the war started. They were willing to. This is such a clusterfuck. Literally the dumbest engagement we've ever gotten involved with. It's got to be worse than any of our previous military engagements. She said the Strait of Hormuz, she said before there's a ceasefire, the Strait of Hormuz needs to be open, no tolls. That's what she said. But clearly we agreed to let them charge tolls. So now we're going back on what we agreed to. Iran's never going to agree to that. So there is no ceasefire then. If the Strait of Hormuz has to be open, as in Iran doesn't take tolls and control it, in one of the original statements it said, boats will coordinate with the IRGC with certain limitations. That's what the official statement said. The Strait of Hormuz will be open, but you have to coordinate with the IRGC, and there will be certain limitations. So Iran was willing to let more ships through as long as they could charge fees, and they would still limit it. They're not going to open it. Why would they? They have the strategic advantage in every sense. We begged them for a ceasefire because we were bluffing the whole time, or Trump or whatever. We never were going to hit the power plants, probably because we were worried about war crimes or worried about the blowback, because we knew Iran was serious when they said, if we hit the power plants, then all bets are off. Iran has been remarkably restrained this entire time. Have many, we say we have all the cards. No, they could still close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait anytime by telling the Houthis to do it. We've proven that we can't stop the Houthis from doing it because they've done it before. We couldn't stop them, no matter how many bombs we dropped. And they can hit pipelines because they hit a pipeline today, which will cripple oil. Markets are shocking at all times. Stock market's fine. No reaction to all the bad news. Oil still not going crazy, not reacting to all the bad news. Oil's over 95, still down 15.6%. But the strait's not opening. We made it a condition of the ceasefire. Karen Levitt just said, well, then there's no ceasefire. Israel's attacking Lebanon. No ceasefire, no deal. Wasn't what they agreed to. 10-point plan. We're saying it was fake. They published it, told all their people. That's not going to play. We need to agree to it before probably negotiate with anybody. She said JD is going to show up. I don't think they'll negotiate with Witkoff and Kushner. If JD doesn't go, then they're not going to negotiate. She said JD is going to go. Trump is saying JD is not going to go because of security concerns. So, yeah, I mean, today's the day. Short, if I wasn't already long oil and short stocks, today's the day. I mean, geez. The news is all bad. Stock market, still super high. No reaction to all the bad news. So good chance if you didn't buy puts or anything. But I can't give financial advice. So good chance to sell stocks, make a profit, have some cash. I don't think it's going to get much better because the deal sucks. The deal doesn't exist. So that's it for now. I'll see if I come back later today with more news. Got to go to work. Mike says bad because I'm a lousy investor. How did I make so much money in cryptocurrency then? I'm not down. How did I make so much money in cryptocurrency? I literally only have money because of investments because I don't make any money. Hardly any. I was living with my dad and I invested a few $1,000s into cryptocurrency. And it turned into like, I don't know, 80,000. You know what I mean? So I'm obviously not lousy. I'm not down over my lifetime, but I'm down today. Yes, I'm down a lot today, but it's just a day. I didn't sell anything, so I'm not really down. But today it looks like people are impervious to the news. That's okay, though. Eventually it settles in. We'll see, though. Maybe I'm wrong. I was shocked yesterday. Obviously, I should have sold yesterday my positions because they're down a lot today. But I'm not deterred. And most of my positions are all the way through June. So one day doesn't matter. The one's expiring this month. Yeah, I'm a little annoyed, but I think I'll actually pay too. All right, guys. Gotta go do some work. See you at the next one. Thanks for the super chats. You can also support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil, dropping coffees anytime, or go to our store, truthclothing.io, where we have t-shirts for $5 and $10. They're on closeout, going out of business, liquidation sale. Super high quality t-shirts like this one, which is really old and still looks good and I wear every day, or a shirt like it. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. See you at the next one. For now, that's what it is.